This video contains spoilers for The Great Pretender and ReZero Season 2. I love this show, and I don't say that lightly. This year so far has been a massive roller coaster, and the show was no exception. There have been many shows this year as a matter of fact. Fire Force, which surprised me with its charm, taking the glorious animation it was gifted and creating a mysterious world and story for us to follow in. Season 2 of ReZero started with just as much oomph as we'd all hoped, dealing with certain issues the first season left behind, such as Subaru's family, as well as creating a bunch of new ones. Episode 12. Love is War had its second season, which meant we got to see loads more of our lovable goofballs. Food Wars is one episode away from finishing, if anyone is still watching. Luckily, it seems to be going out with a wholesome bang.
It's the lamb sauce!
At the time of writing, Attack on Titan Season 4 has yet to be released. On December 7th, guys! Haikyuu to the Top Part 2 will begin next week, as well as Jujutsu Kaisen, a show I'm very much looking forward to. With such a solid year for anime, let me explain why The Great Pretender will go down as one of my favourites of 2020. Basically, in this video, I'm going to be going through all of the parts and saying what I love about them, as well as other things about the show I like as a whole. But first, can I just say a huge thank you to the guys at Netflix for getting the rights to The Great Pretender, sung by the Freddy Mercury. Having it play at the end of each episode is such a weird leap from the usual anime outro songs we get, and I mean, come on guys, it's Freddy Mercury. Just listen to that voice.
Oh yes, I'm the great pretender.
Case 1 follows the gang as they try to rip off Eddie, a Hollywood producer, by presenting him with a drug that provides a seemingly insane high, when in actual fact it's just a regular sweet. And look, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty young, so there's probably a few references to Breaking Bad and Mafia movies I didn't pick up on, but I mean, I can appreciate them nevertheless. I feel this first case serves as more of an introduction to the characters and the format of the show, but that's not to say it's still not an amazing case. It begins by showing us Laurent recruit Edamura in an Ocean's 11-esque switcheroo. At this point, we've already seen Edamura scamming people, and also had foreshadowing of the globetrotting to come in the form of the little capsule toys referred to throughout the show. Having Edamura swept off his feet so soon sets the precedent for pretty much the rest of the show, and is a good way of showing that Laurent will be in control. This episode also introduces us to Abby, another one of the main cast. She's not focused upon in great detail in this case, but still serves as an integral part to the plot advancing. The following episode, much like the rest of the show, contains flashbacks, but this is not a bad thing by any means. This show excels with its use of flashbacks, and in a world where shorter, overused flashbacks are used to pan the runtime out and just the same things over and over again that we've already seen 400 times My Hero Academia, modern anime, it's refreshing to see more meaningful, longer, impactful flashbacks that add to the story and develop our characters. By showing us Edamura's past, we're able to see the difficulties that drove him towards swindling, and this episode also shows us Edamura surprising Laurent by raising the profit from the swindle. I think it's almost fair to equate this to a game of tennis being played by professionals, but without the grunting noises. It also adds to the idea that as a viewer, you'll probably have no clue what's going on till it's revealed, and it makes this show unbelievably entertaining to watch. Throughout the rest of this case, more is revealed about Edamura's past, including his father, a very important character throughout the show. But it also reveals something about Edamura. He's too much of a nice guy. When the FBI try to recruit him to help them catch Laurent, he tries to make sure that they don't arrest the henchman and father of one Salazar, who's looking after him. Acts of kindness like this are something Edamura does throughout the show, always helping those he meets. Well, most of the time. However, the end of this case shows how Laurent was manipulating everything the entire time. Laurent even fakes his and Abby's deaths, and watching Edamura react to this was heartbreaking. Witnessing the world literally fall apart around him was a clever way of representing Edamura's mental and emotional turmoil, as well as portraying the monumental scale of his oopsie. The only thing Laurent did not foresee was the building exploding and everyone almost dying. The case ends with Edamura reflecting on his life up to this point, and in an attempt to atone for the crimes he's committed, he brings his share of the money to police custody. Ending it like this is a clever subversion of expectations, as I for one was expecting Edamura to hop on a plane with the crew and rob the entire world. Having him tackle his guilt instead, I feel, is a more rewarding ending to the case. The second case, Singapore Skyline, takes place 2 years after the end of Case 1, and is set at a time where Edamura has finally gotten on his job and is working as a mechanic. We get to see a brief job being carried out by the crew, followed by them meeting up with Edamura and telling him that Laurent got him his honest job as training for the next swindle, and that all of the skills he has acquired over the last few months are fake, and he sucks at his job. I thought this scene was hilarious, and it serves as another reminder that Laurent is and always will be in control. Reluctant at first, Edamura agrees to help out with the swindle, a job which involves tricking the owners of a rigged air race into betting on their own races and losing. This case serves as a character dive into Abby and her backstory and motivations. Throughout the case, we learn from her stress-induced PTSD flashbacks that she had caring parents at one point and performed ballet to the masses. After one of her performances, an air raid occurs, killing her parents. I believe this was based off of the bombings from the 2003 Battle of Baghdad as part of the invasion of Iraq. Following this, we see her join an armed militia as a child soldier, where her squad is wiped out by overwhelming American firepower. Having Abby, a previously undeveloped character, show all of this violent history at once is almost overwhelming to the viewer and explains a lot about her mannerisms. What heightens the tension is the fact that one of the people on their crew was actually one of the bombers that killed her parents. Having them interact creates such intense scenes that you could probably cut the tension in the air with a knife, and it brings to light the unethical practice that occurs in war, but also to the massive amount of guilt people can harbour when everything's said and done. We even see the now disabled bomber almost beg Abigail to kill him, stating that she'll be free once she kills me. I think this is such a powerful scene, as it is clear both parties have unresolved emotions concerning the other side, and seeing them explode outwards in an almost fatal confrontation is gripping to watch. We also see that Edamura becomes more invested in both of these characters' backgrounds, ultimately bringing Abby to an understanding that she's not the only one suffering. In another case of good guy Edamura, he convinces the bomber to take Abby's place in the air race, allowing him to finally compete in a fair match. Not only does this provide much needed closure for our bomber, but also to Abby, who is able to bring herself to forgive Lewis, after realising he was hurting just as much as her. The climax of this episode shows how once again this was all part of Laurent's plan, but also ends in a parachute last-minute escape with Edamura showing the suicidal Abby that there's reason to keep on living, and that if she dies she can no longer experience the thrill of these swindles. Furthermore, there's also a heartwarming scene where the bomber reconnects with his wife, having become whole again and not the shell of his former self. The last episode ends with Abby laughing, which I think is probably the best possible indicator that Abby has gone under major development, having previously been a stoic, unrelenting force. As a side note, I think this absolutely amazing animation complements this part the best out of all the cases, as the bright, colourful environment of Singapore is able to be fully appreciated, especially in the nighttime sections, where the contrasting colours make entire scenes eye-catching on a whole nother level.